IT providers do, but we certainly make our clients feel much better. We have a 92% net promoter score, which is higher than Apple or Costco. People are raving fans once they become clients. They like to know that they're safe. Provarius provides identity theft protection solutions for organizations that can offer it to their members or resell it, white label it. You can get very creative with it. All US based, all infrastructure very, very tight. So that is my story. I'm sticking to it.
Okay.
Say me? I couldn't tell, you cut out.
Yes.
So Allison Pyron, Operation Delegate. I am a virtual assistant. And so we thrive in I personally thrive in making marketing calls, sales calls. I have a background in sales and marketing. And so Operation Delegate is able to help you business owners with any sort of marketing and sales calls needed, bookkeeping, accounting, problem solving, anything on your task list that you just absolutely don't want to do, that you kind of push to the bottom of your list. Our slogan is, we are the other you. So anything out there that you can think of that you just wish you had somebody else just like you to do that, that's when you look to Operation Delegate. So that's who I am.
Awesome. I wasn't here for who was next in line, but let's go with Cheryl.
Did I hear you call my name, John?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, guys. Pardon?
My audio's breaking up.
Yeah, it was
a little bit. A little bit. Just want to make sure I was being called. So I'm Shirley Singer. I'm actually a small business consultant and small business advocate. I represent Heartland, and we are a financial software solutions company. We have 5 main offering products and services. One is merchant card payment card processing for all customers from Main Street to Wall Street, offering brick and mortar, e-com, electronic payments, invoicing. We also offer HR and payroll services, 401k, lending, and marketing. And we also have customer data intelligence for the marketing sector. So kind of a full hat of products and services. So my main role is to have those consultative conversations with all business owners. Again, every vertical, every industry, from a one-man shop to a startup to Fortune 500s, and really sitting down with the key stakeholders and the decision makers to see what's going on with business. So do some forecasting and really tie them in and see if there's a product or offering that I can provide. And if not, then refer them to one of my partners out in the community. And that's basically what I do.
John, I don't think you have audio.
Oh, that's because I switched audio to the computer and I forgot to do the mute button. So just to show you don't have to be an expert to do something like this. Wesley.
Yeah, John, thanks for having me. Nice meeting the rest of y'all. I'm a business lawyer, run a law firm with my brother full time. Reason I would be on here though is we run a like an online legal services company where we sell LLCs and templates. Basically a improved version of what LegalZoom does out there. So we have like more tailored, basically we've used contracts that we've done in our law firm, those types of kind of side hustle businesses usually, and made them tailored to that industry, but also generic enough so that someone can implement them without having to hire a lawyer and do the hourly fees. So we write better contracts. It's all written by me right now. So I've written every contract on the website, and then we file LLCs in all 50 states, and then have educational legal courses.
Welcome to the call. Brian Peterson, you there?
Yes,
next.
I am here.
Yeah.
Brian Peterson with Employees First Choice. We're actually a marketing firm, both of our TPAs are the Employees Club of California, and helping employees learn prosperity. It's our goal to celebrate the lives of city, municipal, and state employees. So, we provide discounted venues, whether it be restaurants, sporting events, amusement parks, along with some supplemental benefits for their benefit packages.
Fantastic. Welcome to the call. In the chat window, I uploaded a one-page sheet that Wesley his assistant had sent me, and it's there for you to download. It's interesting information about his background, his fun facts, and so forth. And I would encourage everybody on the call today to put the contact information in the chat window so everybody can connect with you on the call here. And then one other housekeeping item before we get rocking and rolling. Everybody can hear me good?
No, you're cutting out pretty bad. Your audio is not good right now.
How about now?
We won't know until you start talking.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Yeah, that's better.
All right, gotta bring the mic closer. Okay, so we're gonna get that fixed before next week, because I'm gonna drop this into the chat window on next week's call. It's actually gonna be a webinar. There's the information on it. It is a different link than we're using today. It's going to run for about 2 hours, a big email promotion, social media promotion. Everything is going out today on this. Last time we had this, I have this every year, been doing it since 2015. Last year, we had well over a couple hundred people on there. It's one of the webinars I do in September every year. Highly recommend you be there. We are going to pitch something on that webinar. So if you refer people to this webinar, please send me a list of those people. All I need is their name. So if they sign up in the program we're going to pitch, you're going to get a commission for that. I'm going to share with you a 50% commission. Well, I just let the cat. Okay, it was going to be 25, but now it's going to be 50. So 50% commission if they sign up for the group program, which is about $500 in your pocket per person. So it's just something I've been doing for the last 6 years. It always is good. It always fills. And so it's just something that's going to be there for you. And so with that said, I want to bring Wesley in early on. Wesley's assistant reached out to me. He and I had a conversation. He's a business attorney, and he's developing a program, which he's going to talk about, but he's an attorney. So if you have any questions, keep in mind, as an attorney, he's licensed in the state he's in, and I don't know, probably multiple states, but there's only so many. Keep in mind, this is being recorded and this is being broadcast. Okay, so when you ask him a question, you need to understand, full disclosure, you're exposed to the world. So if you want to connect with Wesley privately, I would send him a private chat and get on his calendar. But I want to give him about 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes. Tell us about his firm, the program he has for us as small business owners. And then the last 5 minutes, about 10 minutes, to talk, and then about 5 minutes of Q&A. Any questions that you have for your business. We have an actual business attorney here that's licensed, that's a professional. And so I want to turn the meeting over to Wesley at this time and introduce you. I did not get an intro, but I put your stuff in the chat with it. So go for it.
Yeah, it's all good. Thank you, John. Bit about me. I'm run this law firm with my brother here in Charleston, South Carolina. That's the place that I practice. So we have basically two arms to it. We work with our day-to-day clients doing, your normal hourly rate sort of work through our law firm. We've got about 10 people here. We've got 4 lawyers. We opened it up about 7 years ago. I was kind of lived the entrepreneur life a little bit. I went through law school, did all the schooling, and then jumped into a job with this regional firm. They've got about, 25 offices in 15 states. It was the job I thought was going to be awesome, that whole thing. And I was like, I don't know, like 6 days into it. My wife now, girlfriend at the time, and I was like, this is horrible. And so I knew that wasn't the path that I was going to stay on. I stuck it out for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. But during that time, I kind of had to, ask myself a little bit more about what made me tick and the type of business that I did want to run. And so my brother and I kind of started a long conversation where we were able to develop a law firm that really resonated with us. And one of the important things was working with business owners. And we've just got, our mom ran a business, and then our granddad had his own business. And it's just kind of one of those things, for entrepreneurs, it's kind of in your blood or it's not, and it's just there. And so we get a good reward out of working and helping business owners work through their problems. One of the offshoots of this, though, is we started this business and have been fortunate enough to kind of run out of time. And so when we first started, we were helping people start their business, LLCs, get contracts, that sort of stuff. A lot of what we do now is general counsel with some of our larger clients. We sell businesses, we buy some of that transactional work. But we still like to work with the kind of that new entrepreneur, that starting my own business, that family run type of business. And one of the ways we've been able to do that while making the budget of a startup kind of work is creating this other company called Drafted Legal, which does LLCs. This is essentially prepackaged legal services with some explanation to them. So for my clients, I'll write an agreement for them, and then I'll get on the phone and we'll screen share and we'll talk through what everything is and why it's in there. And 50% of the time they're bored out of their mind, and 50% of their time they love knowing what this legalese means and says and that sort of stuff. So we've created this to make it super easy and understandable, and more tailored based on the industry. Everything's written by lawyers. So we've had a lot of fun doing that, kind of scratching this entrepreneur itch once again and getting this business going for the last couple of years. We've had a lot of good responses, and now we're kind of growing it more nationally. We do it a lot locally with local businesses, have them using it for LLCs and templates and that sort of stuff. So really our goal is to make it as easy and as best of a service, and we're still constantly doing that for someone who wants to start a business and doesn't know what they need to do. And so we'll walk them through some of the things, like on our website, we kind of have we have the PDFs and the lead magnets and all this stuff that kind of teach people how to do things like, figure out whether your name has a trademark. So this is just something we see in our day-to-day practice. The law firm practice is someone gets a cease and desist about a trademark, and they never knew that someone over in, Austin, Texas was running an ice cream shop that they trademarked, and they're doing the same thing here in Charleston. So we see a lot of these same kind of mistakes, how people handle disputes, and, whether they have things, certain clauses like prevailing party clauses in their contracts that give them a little extra oomph to it. So we're trying to design this and have designed it around that smaller entrepreneur that doesn't have the budget for the lawyer, but wants to do it right. So that's what this sort of Drafted Legal business is for. I'm also happy to talk a little bit, the lawyer disclaimer is one of the reasons I like this other business is I don't have to do the lawyer disclaimer stuff. But the lawyer disclaimer is, of course, I don't have attorney-client privilege with anyone here unless there's a side engagement letter. Wouldn't really be able to give advice other than sort of generic stuff. What we try to do with the Drafted Legal is set out a path for people to follow. So you'll hear when I'm in my lawyer hat, well, it depends. I got to know more, because it's nuanced, just like your jobs. Like, you need to know more information to tell somebody what they need to do. And that's just the way it is. So with this, what we try to do is prepackage something that's just like safe and knocks out the fundamentals. And so we have, we tell people to get in an LLC, get in a contract, research their trademark. If they're two people coming together, we have like 8 things they need to agree on. It's not a 25-page document. It's like a 4-page document, but it's who owns what percent, how do you vote on stuff, just your basic stuff, so that as you start going, you wake up 3 years down the road and you're making some money, you're still in a good spot and you got your fundamentals protected. So that's kind of the quick shot at that business. Sounds like some of y'all's businesses that you're working with are probably a little bigger than what our target is. But I'd still be happy to answer questions. Everybody, kind of has a little, that little side hustle itch to them. So anytime I'm talking about it, there's usually a few questions. So I'm happy to answer anything about that business or anything else that I can.
Okay, so if you have a question for Wesley, go ahead and unmute yourself. And I'm going to be posting his contact information in the chat with it here in just a second. Go ahead, Allie.
I was just gonna say, so we, just being becoming a small business owner myself, at what point would you recommend on becoming an LLC for, let's say, a startup business? Because you're saying mom and pop, so at what point can someone operate, and then you kind of have to go, okay, should we become an LLC, or is that something that should happen in your recommendation right up front?
I would say right up front, and the caveat would be kind of where you're located. So most states, it's relatively inexpensive. So I'll take South Carolina, where I am. It's $125 to file the government filing fee, and you never pay anything else ever again. And what you get for that $125 is like mind-boggling, the rewards you get. So you get this whole, liability protection. You get, this sort of separate entity that will protect you personally from debts and injuries that are born of the business itself. We usually tell people, you don't have to do it, but you are, if you're running a business, you are exposing yourself for anything that the business is on the hook for. You're also on the hook for. It's even more dangerous if you're doing it with someone else, because then you're not only exposing yourself for your own things, but whatever your business partner did, dumb or smart or whatever, you're on the hook. It's called joint and several liability. So you're trying to wrap, it's a really cool thing, because you can choose in your LLC what you're investing, kind of like what you put in the stock market, what you put in your business, unless there's a personal guarantee out of it. That money invested, that time, those assets that are in there, that's what you want to be available for exposure. And so we think I see that question. I'll do that, the Escort as well. So we think it's a no-brainer, the bang for your buck you get on that. Like a state like California makes you think a little bit twice about it if it's truly a side hustle thing, and you're just like dabbling in, because they have like an $800 annual fee after you file. So like, well, that's a lot of money. When it's the most other states, I think you just go do it. The other thing I see from it is that there's like a mindset shift for people who are on the fence. It makes you, get in this mindset of, oh, I'm a real deal business, and you present that way more to clients. So we think taking on that professionalism kind of shows better to clients, like, hey, I'm crossing my T's, I'm dotting my I's. This is what you can expect from me. Like, there's that saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So when people present ready to go with their professional documents, their LLC, it just shows you're taking care of everything and that you're organized. A lot of times I think people don't want to like shove an agreement in someone's face, but that's probably because they're, are looking at like a 12-page agreement, or they're thinking it's like Apple's, 104-page license agreement that you have to sign or something. And that's not usually what they are. They're meant to create clarity with a client. It's really meant to facilitate a better relationship. Quickly on this like LLC, S Corp, C Corp, some of that is a little misnomer. So the S Corp portion of it is, so you got, a sole proprietor is, there's no protection at all. It's just, I'm out there hustling, doing business, didn't file anything. I'm just trying to make money. I'll figure it out later. The LLC is kind of this newer thing that started in the 80s. They were trying to make it simpler and easier. So state legislatures started doing it, and everyone's done it now. And I bet 95% of what we file out of our law firm is an LLC. It can do a lot. It gets all the same protections. The C Corp is where, that's like your traditional corporation where you're exchanging shares. You're trying to trade ownership. You have board of directors and bylaws and that sort of stuff. The S thing that you'll see all over the internet, the questions always be, should I get an LLC or an S Corp? What the S is a tax election. So it's really an S election with the IRS. that generally, and I'm not a tax accountant, but generally it saves owners money when they distribute. So you pay like 10 or 12% less. You know, if you pay yourself through an Escort a reasonable wage, you can pay yourself $50,000 and then distribute everything above that. And everything above that is kind of the profit, you save a lot of money on. So it's really, really great early on in a business. You can pay yourself low and then distribute and keep more money for yourself and less in the government. That's the thing. So you can be an S out of an LLC. So a lot of LLCs just file their taxes as an S election.
So at any point, am I unmuted? All right, so I have a C Corp. I've had a C Corp now for, I don't know, since 2017. So at any point, can I mean, you got to do it within the first 75 days, but I'm way beyond that. So at any point, can I don't know if that's a tax question or what, can I file for, I have to justify a letter, file for the Escort election?
Go backwards? I don't know. That is a tax question.
Moving forward.
Yeah. But yeah, kind of. So we always like people starting with the LLC because you can go easier up, or more formal, I guess. I don't know. I would assume that you can, but that would be more of the accountant tax question. You are supposed to file it early on. There are ways around that. You just give them a reason why you didn't file your S, and they'll do it anyway. So usually we had people in the LLC, if they're not sure yet, and then send them to an accountant immediately. And it's like a 1-page Escort S election form, and nothing to it.
Okay. So let's just say somebody comes to you, you form their LLC for them, or you help them get their Escort status. Once they're set up, there's these formalities, and I think this is going to be very valuable for a lot of business owners to hear, the ones that are on the live call and the thousands that are going to listen to the recording and the podcast. A lot of people that I run across, and it's typically business owners, this is their first company. They've been successful. They got an LLC or an Escort, but they forget, oh, wait, there's certain formalities that they don't even know about that they really need to be doing in order to maintain the corporate veil of this entity. So can you kind of share a little bit about that and what you guys provide from a checklist standpoint or a service standpoint to help them keep their corporate record book in order?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of that varies state to state, but I can speak kind of generally on it. So one of the reasons we like the LLC is because it doesn't require the same formalities as a corporation. Corporation is built largely to protect shareholders who aren't necessarily the decision makers. So you have things like annual meetings and minutes and shareholder rights that are a little bit different because you have ownership separated a lot of times from the decision makers. With an LLC, you don't have those same corporate formalities. The reason why this matters is if your company gets sued or another company you have gets sued, and what the lawyers are trying to do is find money. Sometimes you find it in insurance, but sometimes you find it outside of that, corporation or LLC. This is called piercing the corporate veil. And there are a couple ways for plaintiffs' lawyers to pierce the corporate veil. And one of them is when a company's just kind of running more haphazardly, not observing those formalities, not creating resolutions, not having annual meetings, not having minutes, not doing what they're supposed to within whatever their state's asking of them. So it's a lot of like paper pushing just to show that you're running and acting as a business. Another thing that will open it up is something called commingling. And so that would be this, you start a business, and you got one bank account and you're just kind of running your business. It's not doing anything yet. So you're just kind of paying for this and that from one account. And they call it commingling funds. It's all, the idea behind all of it is that you get all these great liability protections, but only if it really is a separate business. So if it's not run totally separate and like a real business, it's not set up so that I can just like put money over here in an LLC or corporation and then shield it from everything else. That's not what it is. it is set up so that if I'm going to invest in a business, a real business, then I get protections where it doesn't come back on me personally. So you do have to play ball a little bit. In terms of services, there are, you make it a certain types of decisions based on your bylaws. You might need a resolution. That's a like 1 to 2 page document. We also oftentimes will do these like annual meetings and go ahead and do the minutes and give them a checklist of everything they need to do. Again, it is one of the benefits of the LLC for the smaller businesses who don't need a corporation, is that you don't have to worry about that. States will have obviously like annual tax filings, but you don't have the same corporate formalities that a corporation does, which is why you see people kind of, leaning in that LLC direction, particularly early on, because you can always convert from an LLC to a corporation. Whereas when you go from a corporation, you have to essentially liquidate and go backwards, so that's why you hear us. Yes, it depends. The more I would know about a business, it depends. But for anyone like starting a business, that LLC is, what I would say is the blanket general. Feel comfortable, go with it, because you can always maneuver better from that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for your time, Wesley. I really, really appreciate it. What's the, for those that are on the podcast and they don't see the screen and the chat window and so forth, and the ones that are watching this on YouTube, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, so there's a connect with through the draftedlegal.com website. Just, the contact information there. So it'd be info@draftedlegal.com if you're interested about those kind of more template LLC done for you, DIY, not done for you, but like that DIY online budget version. But if you're looking for a lawyer to do things like trademarks, some federal stuff, get guidance in that way, business, like more personalized business counsel, it would be through our law firm, which would be my email is probably the best one. It's Wesley@hhlawsc.com.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to open it up for Q&A for anybody. We can talk about, you can ask Wesley any questions you want about legal stuff. If you got a business problem or challenge, definitely ask those questions. We got a whole bunch of talent on this call. Allison's an absolute professional at customer service, sales, marketing, relationship building. Alan's like the IT industry expert. Brian's got a sales background. Shirley's got a massive background in the area of health and wellness and fitness. And I really am excited about working with you and your business because normally health and wellness coaches that I've worked with in the past, they're supplement focused. And in talking with Shirley and really getting an understanding, it's the whole thing. It's health and wellness. It's like physical, mental, everything. So we got the expert here as well. So I'm going to open it up for anybody, including yourself, Wesley. Any questions that you have, business challenges, problems, anything that you want to go over and mastermind with this group today. First come, first serve. Go for it, Alan.
So, Wesley, that's fantastic content, and I appreciate knowing more about what you do. I can speak from experience. The early morning that my business name was thought of in 1998, I was very, very excited. I got up, made some coffee, did the trademark search, figured out real quick that I can see where that would be very, very valuable for any startup. When you talk about your target market, what does that really look like? Because I can see just, generic startups, but like small healthcare entities might need more specialization. What are you really going after with the template driven service?
That's a really good question, and one that's probably good for the mastermind, because we kind of created this in response to what we were seeing from our actual law firm. People calling who couldn't quite afford to hire us from the law firm, just the hourly time and budget barrier. And so we started creating it based on that and did it for free for a while for people and got a good response. And as we've tried to scale it, we continue to work on who our kind of niche would be. It's usually, it's still very general. It's anyone who wants to start a business that doesn't have enough money to hire a law firm to do it. So very broad. It's one of, that's just the way it is. What we typically see with it, it's people who are starting a side hustle rather than starting a business that will become their full, that's their whole livelihood right there. It's, hey, I'm in a job, you see it a lot over the last couple of years. I'm in a job, but I also, really enjoy freelancing. What am I supposed to do? I don't want to spend $5,000 on this, that, and the other if I'm going to dump this thing in 3 years. So it's usually the people who want to do it, have the either product or service. A lot of times it's consultants, marketing, graphic designers, a lot of online business, a lot of fitness. We see a lot of fitness, and we see coaches, event planners, that sort of industries that we see a lot of that use it and get good use out of it.
Got it. Thank you.
That's a good question. It might be different answers every year.
Yep. Changes all the time. So I just want to make one correction, and here's kind of a real world lesson as a business owner. When you screw up, you own it very, very quickly. The other thing is, when you screw up, one of the things I learned from Dale Carnegie is beat the heck out of yourself as quickly as possible, and you'll get grace from your audience. And so I've had so many calls with people across the country this week, and I got Shirley mixed up with a client of mine I'm working with on Monday. But fortunately, she bailed me out because she also is a health and wellness mindset person. So Shirley actually is a merchant services credit card processing expert. And I'm going to, Shirley, tell us, so you can correct me, okay? And I'm going to give you some audience here. Tell us exactly what it is that you do. And because I definitely have questions about this space, because too many business owners lose too much money on credit card processing. And you taught me something the other day I didn't even know that was illegal.
Oh.
But, go ahead.
Yeah. So I am going to switch hats because I was just saying what you said may have been prophetic, because I also, I'm really involved with the community. So I do represent health, wellness, and mindset in my role, my HR role, and my role as a board member at the Central Valley Safety Society, and really bringing that element of human and employee mindset together. So that is one of the hats that I wear. But the main hat that I wear most recently is with Heartland and the credit card, merchant card processing. And yes, so tapping on what we were talking about the other day is the credit card and the surcharging. So very briefly, a lot of merchants, businesses are starting to surcharge, telling customers that there will be an additional fee, however much they're determining, kind of arbitrarily, to anytime you swipe your card. Well, that is not necessarily legal. So there's a Durbin Amendment that everyone can read up on, and you cannot ever surcharge or add fees to a charge because a client or customer is swiping a debit card. So you cannot. Debit is cash in the merchant business. It is not legal. It's federally not legal. You can surcharge a true credit card. Now, how do you know the difference, right? You're a business. Do I factor in the human error? Do I ask my customer? No, you make sure that your credit processor, your merchant card processor has everything situated on the software side. So when that customer, I myself, put in my card, it's all done for you. The reading is done. So it is not legal to charge any additional fees on a debit card. There is a maximum you can charge on a credit card, and you have to get pre-approval by Visa or MasterCard, the brand. You have to submit paperwork for that. So yeah, and so talk to your merchant services provider and make sure that they are legitimately signing you up. If you need additional information, you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to send some over. Thank you for that.
You bet. Does anybody have any questions about merchant services, credit card processing, debit card processing while Shirley is here?
Real quick. You said swiping a card.
Yes.
Card. Does that apply to stored debit cards, like in a SaaS solution where the client or customer can subscribe to your services and they store a debit card? Is that the same?
It is. So we use the term swipe because a lot of our customers are just kind of familiar with that, especially in brick and mortar. But anytime a debit card is being charged, regardless of what bank it's from, regardless of what brand logo it has, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover, debit cards cannot be surcharged, period.
Okay.
And you want your SaaS, you want your software to be situated so it is set up that all that is being done electronically. And with Heartland, we actually have that surcharge program. So any issues that stem from it on the liability side, the business is not, Heartland takes on the liability. So a lot of merchant services vendors out there are passing that liability over to the business. So if anything does happen on a bigger scale, they're hands off. We want to protect the merchant. That is our role as a provider.
Great.
Go ahead, Allie.
Hey, Shirley, so what is a process? So let's say Alan, for example, or John, want to see, you know, what they're actually paying, what's actually going on. What kind of an audit process do you provide, or what do you do that can show a business what they're actually spending and what they could be saving?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do, and I do a merchant services analysis, a value analysis, really. So any business that is processing customer payments via debit, credit, whether it's in person, online, however, I would just ask for 2 months of your most current merchant statement. And then I have an actual software that I can plug it into and run it against our Heartland service. There's a lot of pricing, fancy footwork out there. I'll say it that way. So you know, there's just a lot of money that's being not left on the table, but definitely there's a lot of money that can come back into businesses' checkbooks directly, and that's what I'm here for as a small business advocate and consultant, wanting to make sure that when I'm doing an analysis and looking at your last 2 months of statements, and even if you're a new business and you don't have 2 months of statements, we can sit down and talk and do projections. And then with Heartland and our fees, it's all interchange plus. We give back to the customer directly. There's no fluctuation outside of what Visa and MasterCard is doing. And if there is, we refund that back to the client, our customer. And then interchange fees from Visa and MasterCard, they change twice a year. So October now is the time where you all are going to be seeing a jump in your fees, just if you're looking at your fees based on your deposits, because you know, interchange plus rates change in April and October. So now is the time to really be scrutinizing those fees and seeing how much money can come back into your business checkbook.
Okay, any other questions for Shirley or Wesley? Okay, so one of the things I want to, did you have a question, Shirley? No? So one of the things I want to point out is, and correct me if I'm wrong, myself, Wesley, Allison, Alan, Shirley, and maybe even Brian, and I for sure, are all going after the exact same client. And so let me actually change the view here so I can get a gallery view. So the 5 of us are all going after the same client. And one principle I want to teach today for everybody's sake and all the listeners that are listening to the recording, when you have, this would be in my world, what I would call a power partnership. So in 2003, I got tired of making 250 to 400 cold calls a week. And I said, there's got to be a better way. This is not fun for me. And so I looked at, okay, in order to develop a relationship with somebody, I have to spend time with them. So number one, I go, okay, I got to like the person. We've got to be going after the same client. A client for me is a client for them naturally. And so I can't just say, hey, I'm going to refer you business and you refer me business. It never works. We conversations all the time where you're like, hey man, if you think of somebody, give them to me. Oh yeah, no problem, dude, I'll do it. And then nothing ever happens, right? And so I said, okay, I'm going to develop four relationships, because I can meet with them once a month. That means one a week. And I can get to know them on a personal level. I can get to know their business. I can develop a huge know, like, and trust factor with, and I can be consistent with that versus being a part of the Chamber of Commerce and this networking group and that networking group and wasting a ton of time. And so I came up with this strategy called POI. Now, I did a 5-part video series on this because I teach this to every single client I have, and I've taught it now, given that specific talk, probably 2,000 times. So I finally broke down, put it in a 5-part video series. I'll send it to all of you. And if you're listening to the recording, if you want that, send me a text message, your email address at 916-741-0596. 916-741-0596, your name and your email address. I'll add you to the Dropbox and you can download it. You don't even need to contact me because I created it for my clients, okay, because I got tired of teaching it. But it's step by step. Here's how you do this process. To give you the result of that, I took it's from $500,000 to $4.9 million a year in revenue in 3.5 years with this strategy. I took GA4 from 1.2 to $8.5 million in 2.5 years with this strategy. I took IBNS, company I owned 100% of, from 0 to $1 million in 3 years with this strategy. That's the only strategy I used. Okay. And I've taken my business that I have right now when I first started from 0 to a 6-figure income in 4.5 months and well beyond that since. And I have lots and lots of clients. So really it's 4 power partners, which I have on this call here today, 4 power partners for me. And in the old days, I would meet with you for lunch. Or I would meet with you over a coffee, a beer, cocktail, whatever. Once a month, we'd spend about a half hour, 45 minutes. I would visit your LinkedIn profile before we met. I would go into your LinkedIn profile. I would type up the type of prospect I'm looking for. I would find 10 people I think would be a good fit for me. I would bring it to a meeting. You and I would have a conversation. Wesley, how did it go this last month? What was exciting in your business? What were your big wins? What were the lessons that you learned? And we would bring, he would tell me all that, and then I would do the same and go, okay, over this next 30 days, what are your goals specifically? What can I help you with to help you achieve your goals? What leads, business ideas, referrals I can make? How can I help you hit your goals over the next 30 days? He would say the same for me. Last, here's 10 people that I think would be great prospects for me that you're directly connected to on LinkedIn. And all it does is it jogs his memory, just jogs his memory. He goes, well, I know that person. I know that person. I know that person. I know that person. Okay. Would you mind referring these people to me? Or do you mind if I call them and mention your name? He's going to say yes. Invariably, what will happen is he'll think about 2 or 3 people that's not on that list. And Jim Canaris is my person I did this with since 2006, made millions of dollars in business with this one strategy. And I would walk away every single month, the third Friday, 3:30 p.m. Cyber Java Cafe on Madison and Navy. I used to joke around and say, if you're looking for me, you can find me at that place on that day at that time. But I walked away with 7 to 9 referrals every single month. That allowed me to go into every single month knowing exactly how many referrals I was going to get, who they were coming from, on what day they were coming from, and I built a business as a result of that. And so I just wanted to point that out, that there's 4 potential power partners for me on this call, which means there's 4 potential power partners for each of you on this call. And the magic move at this point would be, Allison call Shirley, Allison call Wesley, Allison call Alan, and vice versa. Get to know one another because we're all going after the same client, and you either click or you don't. But all of us can make a whole lot of money on referrals versus all this and spending a lot of money on pay-per-click and all this other stuff. I don't think I've spent a single dime on pay-per-click or any of that stuff. And so that's just my tip for today. It works very, very well. It just takes effort. Again, if you're listening to the recording, 916-741-0596, I'll send you the recordings. Just follow it. And if you want to connect with me to get any clarification, I'd be more than happy to, but you really don't. I mean, I created that for my clients. That's what I train them with. Any other questions? Anybody have any other business challenge or problem you want to strategize on? We got a couple of minutes left. and I want to open it up for anybody to talk about anything they want from a business standpoint. No? Okay. Cool deal. One thing I just popped in my head that I'm going to share with you. How do I want to say this? I was in a humidor back in a cigar humidor back in 2010, and I had this client called Synapsense. They had been bought by IBM since, but they were a startup. They built a massive business, and I handled all the computer IT support for them. They loved us. We had 2 help desk tickets a month. Super profitable client, high margin. Just everything ran smooth. And I get a phone call from the vice president going, "I'm terminating your contract." And I'm like, "I was just out there yesterday. I brought you bagels, dude. I had the little onion chive cream cheese. You said you loved it. You said you loved me. What happened?" "Well, your partner, Justin, was supposed to be out here fixing our email problem. It's been a problem for 2 weeks. We had to call one of your competitors. They came out and fixed it, and we're going to go with them." And I'm like, "What?" Called my office, come to find out, yep, 2 weeks ago they submitted a ticket. Now here's the moral story. How did I lose that client? I lost the client. I took 100% ownership of it. Wasn't Justin's fault. Wasn't Amy Tacker's fault. It was my fault. I own the company. I was supposed to maintain the relationship with that customer. And because I personally got lazy in the relationship, I wasn't the phone call that they made when they had the problem. I was the phone call to terminate. And so if you ever lose a client in your business, here's a good piece of advice. Look at what you could have done as the owner differently, okay, and fix that. The only difference between a contact and a contract is the relationship. And it's up to us as the CEO to make sure and maintain that relationship. Otherwise, our clients are up for grabs. And so with that said, that you can't read that in a book. I had to learn that. That was a painful lesson, And so, but go out and make it happen. Again, next week, we're going to do a webinar. It's going to be phenomenal. Every year I do it, it is phenomenal. So it's going to tee us up to finish this year strong. And the key is finishing the year strong going into December with a massive amount of momentum. My goal every year, and I teach people how to do this, is you have a complete packed calendar in January. So when you come off the holidays, you're not doing what everybody else is doing, is trying to figure out what they're going to do by the 3rd week of January. You're going to grow. And so with that said, go out and make it happen. Copy everybody's if you go into the chat window, I'll give you a secret because I left it open in this particular Zoom. If you go into the chat window, on the very far right side, there are 3 dots. If you click on that, you can hit Save Chat, and it will save it as a text message to your computer. And that way you can go back and grab everybody's information and the notes and that sort of thing. So just a little tip when you're on Zoom calls, some people don't do that, but that's how you can grab everybody's information. So just a tip there. So go out and make it happen. I hope this has been valuable, and go up on YouTube and comment on it, share it. It's being streamed live up there, and share this call with other people. The more business owners we get on the live call, the more questions we have, but you'll develop community all over the world through this call. I hope this has been valuable. Have a great week.